we've had people who from our dinners have raised significant amounts of money, have had charities funded, relationships have come from, like, all these things. And what do they, the only thing they have in common is Selena and I.
Even now, these dinners aren't like overly strategic, like we are expecting, X amount of business deals to happen or for us to get anything out of it. So no, but we just know the value of bringing people together. I mean, I think all the good things for our life have come from the relationships we have.
Everything. My favorite quote, which Bobby, video guys, heard 1,000 times today, is you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Community Made Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Gaynard. Now, as you know, this season is all about how to grow, nurture, and amplify your business relationships. In the first few episodes of this season, I shared 3 unique stories which served as examples of how to reach the unreachable and befriend celebrities and billionaires. I shared my playbook on how to foster deep and genuine relationships with people at conferences and networking events, even if you're an introvert. And I also shared how to become a catalyst of sorts by hosting mastermind dinners of your own. In today's episode, I sit down with 2 new friends of mine, Selena Sue and Chris Winfield. Selena is a publicity and marketing specialist who helps experts, authors, and coaches go from hidden gem to household name. At the time of this recording, she was actually in the process of releasing a great course called Impacting Millions. So for more on that, visit impactingmillions.com. And then we have Chris. So Chris is a man of many talents. He's a longtime entrepreneur who had a sizable marketing agency in the past, and he's also known for his expertise in publicity as well. He's done a lot with Entrepreneur Magazine specifically and hosts a great event called The Unfair Advantage, where he walks people through how to leverage their connections with the media and influencers for credibility, authority, and profit. For more details on that event, visit events.chriswinfield.com. That's CHRISWINFIELD.com. Now, reading out both of these bios, both Chris and Selena are marketers. They both have strong relationships in publicity, and they both live in New York City. So deciding to partner on hosting dinners, to me, it's just a natural fit. It's a natural win-win. So in this episode, we sit down to learn how their divide and conquer mentality has allowed them to host some of New York City's biggest names in publishing and publicity. A few housekeeping things that I'd like to add before we jump into this great conversation. First is we highlight and touch on a handful of principles, I guess you could say, that are covered in my book, Mastermind Dinners, Building Lifelong Relationships by Connecting Experts, Influencers, and Linchpins. This book has sold surprisingly well, has over 4.7 stars out of 5 on Amazon, over the last 215 reviews. If you're a member of the Community Made group, you can get access to a free PDF version of the book in the resource section. If you're not a member, lucky for you, joining is free. Simply visit communitymade.com to get access. Second, we decided to take some of the concepts of this season on how to grow, nurture, and amplify your business relationship and go deep in a live, intimate workshop setting. I love facilitating workshops and live experiences, and we decided to announce the first workshop. Surprisingly, it sold out really quickly, so we decided to do a second. So for dates and availability on that, visit superconnectorworkshop.com. That's superconnectorworkshop.com. And third, if you're a fan of what we're doing here at Community Made, I would be forever grateful if you would share this podcast with a friend. I specifically avoided traditional marketing methods of building an audience for the podcast because I don't care for vanity metrics. I don't want a lot of listeners. I want the right listeners. And I'm a firm believer that amazing people like yourself know other amazing people. So if you know of someone who could benefit from an episode of this season, please send it along to them. Besides that, that's it. Let's get right to it. This is such a great, intimate conversation with Selena Sue and Chris Winfield, so enjoy. Listen, I am incredibly excited to finally sit down with both of you because it's been years in the making on some level. Selena, we were originally introduced, so I knew of your name, probably since like 2013 through like Derek Halpern and then like Dan Martell and Todd Herman. Your name just kept on coming up in conversation, and I actually looked at my email to see like what was the first like interaction or introduction we had, And from what I can tell, we were introduced through John Corcoran,
Oh, yeah.
which I didn't even know that's the one who facilitated the introduction. So I remember we had a call at one point in time, and then haven't really touched base since. Been still a fan of yours from afar, like learning about you from what you post on social media and that kind of stuff, and seeing what you're up to, but never had an opportunity to actually kind of sit down. And you host these dinners. You and Chris both host these dinners, and that's actually one of the core reasons, selfishly, I wanted to sit down, because I don't think either of you have read Mastermind Dinners, which is the book I wrote on dinners, which is, to me, incredibly exciting because it means you haven't been influenced by it at all. So I'm so excited to hear about how your dinners came to be, the structure, the format you guys use. I mean, I've seen the photos of your dinners, which are always stunning. So we'll talk about that more in a second. But so I have Selena right across from me. To my left, I have Chris, who I just shared a lovely dinner with. This is the first opportunity we got to sit down, actually. Again, your name came on my radar through a few people. I think you spoke at Todd Herman's 90-day year.
Last year.
And somebody who's part of Mastermind Talks was in the audience, and they're like, you have to get Chris to Mastermind Talks. And I was like, okay, cool. I've heard his name before. And then literally, I think you reached out to me afterwards, and you're like, hey, I've heard about Mastermind Talks. And then we started talking, but never kind of followed up too much because you're a very busy individual with, cameras following you across the city and stuff like that. Live a very interesting life. But then I looked through my emails as well, and Clay Hebert was the one who connected us. And I know Clay is also a friend of yours.
Yep.
And Clay did that video kind of introduction many moons ago.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the presence of two super connectors that ended up working together on this project, which is dinners. So I want to talk about your dinners again. I'd love to also know, Selena, I know you guys are both in the publicity space on some level, and Selena, I know you've published a lot also on relationship building, networking, and those kind of things. And both of you, relationships is a huge component to the work that you do. So there's a lot that we can jam on in that regards. But I'd love to know, how did two quote unquote super connectors initially connect? Do you guys remember?
I remember 100%. And the funniest thing is that you mentioned one of the people, and we talked a little bit about dinner. And we went out to dinner before, and we're like, we're not going to talk about anything related to dinners or anything. And also, I'm so happy to hear that you're okay that I didn't read Mastermind Dinners, because I wanted to just kind of gloss over that.
No, I'm glad.
So
a little heartbroken now, but overall, it'll make a better.
I only
interview.
read books from 1920s. So we met at a dinner that Selena and Dan Martell had thrown together in New York.
Yeah, it was about a year ago.
Yeah, a year and a half, July.
Yeah, well, it was June 30th. I remember the date. So Dan was coming to town, and we discussed, hosting a dinner party together. I would invite a group of people. He would invite some people. And I knew pretty much every single person at the dinner party except for Chris Winfield. I had heard his name, but we had never connected before. And we were sitting at other sides of the table. And so at the very end of the night, I kind of came over to him, and he was looking to talk to me too. And we just really hit it off, and we just talked for, a very, very long time. Hours, yeah. And, I could just tell that Chris shared that passion like me, of connecting with people and being that super connector, helping people. It was like I'd met a kindred spirit. And then Chris said to me, it's so great that you and Dan are doing this dinner party, but Dan doesn't even live in New York.
Dan lives in Canada.
Why don't we do something? And I was like, okay. And so we started, I think our first dinner party together was a couple months later in September. We did maybe one or two more before the end of the year. And then we started doing them pretty much monthly.
Yeah. And we just started just kind of working together, helping each other, just supporting and, whatever, in whatever way. And that's I think just like when we were at dinner tonight, and, it's like there's so many things I just kept saying. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just saying it in a different voice. And it's the same way with Selena. We approach things. We have a different styles of things, but our heart is in the same place, and our vision is in the same place. So when you find that, it just our whole thing is 1 + 1 = 11. Yeah. Instead of just looking at it as two.
So have you, prior to that, because you obviously co-hosted this dinner with Dan, and Dan actually, I love his philosophy around this, is where he does go to cities and he partners with somebody every time. He invites half the people, they invite half the people, and they kind of collaborate on the dinner. Up until that time, did you host dinners of your own?
Yeah, I'd been hosting dinner parties for a couple of years. So
okay.
I had a publicity mastermind that I started in 2013, and a big part of it was doing these media dinner parties, because I loved being able to coach people and help people get media, but I just knew that there was so much power in people actually meeting the media face to face and developing their own relationships. So I'd been doing that pretty regularly, but then I had put that mastermind on pause because I had launched a group program called Impacting Millions and needed to clear space for that. But I think there's a part of me that was looking to do these dinners again. And so when Chris and I, connected, it was just perfect.
And you?
So in my background, so a lot of how I grew my agencies was through dinners and through events. So
Really?
I do conferences, like these small, like about 100-person events, and actually get like lots of my competitors to come and speak and all these things. And it would be focused around, dinner the night before, and always like around, the networking side was such an important component. And then also doing dinners a lot of times when I would go speak at different conferences. So if I would go to Las Vegas, I would organize a dinner. And so that's how I grew. Like that was a primary way. So publicity and, networking, dinners, things, speaking were the ways that I always grew any of my companies. That's how I knew like Dan or Neil or, all of these people from just hanging out with them outside of, a conference or outside of, whatever it was.
So I want to talk about the format and also the evolution, because you guys have done dinners on your own previously, and there's obviously, you evolve the dinners and those kind of things. So I want to talk about that in a second, but why partner on this together? Because I know a lot of people who don't do it as like a lone wolf. The only other two people I know who've collaborated for a significant amount of time and got great value from it was Michael Fishman and Ramit Sethi. Everybody else I know, then there's a few people that do dinners now. They do it alone, me included. So how did it just make sense that you thought you could it'd be easier to kind of divide and conquer? Or obviously you guys hit it off on a personal level, but was there much thought behind the partnership?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we just, both share this passion for connecting with people, and we want to make sure that these dinners are super high value. And what's really fun is like Chris and I are so good at connecting the dots when we come together. It's just like amazing, all the ideas that we come up with. And I also knew that I didn't want to just hit up the same people in my network over and over again. Like the way to add more value is to bring, fresh people and fresh ideas in. So it was just better that way.
Yeah. And so there was like a bunch of different parts. So all of us being able to bring different people, but also what we're really good at, and this is what I was talking to you about as well, is like being able to be each other's like cheerleaders, and and then it also becomes easier. It takes, for me, it's just like we'll have 25, sometimes we do dinners where there's 50 people, and we really want to make sure that every feels really, really comfortable, that they leave feeling like their life got improved that day. They felt a closer connection. So, and that's hard. It's hard to do with a party of 4 or 5.
Sure.
So when we have both, it just like it kind of takes that pressure off, because we know that between us, we're going to pretty much touch each person, and be able to, make sure that they feel like they actually, felt that connection and that they're comfortable. And, we'll also point out like, hey, it seems like this person is a little uncomfortable. Can you go over and talk to him? Or if we know like there's somebody that would be better for Selena to talk to than me, or, that she'll have, because we'll be thinking about who are the different types of people. So it just made it, and it makes it so much easier. And you said something that Selena actually always brings up, like divide and conquer. That's how we always try to think of things, because there's things that I'm really good at that, that I can help with. Those are very few. I'm not good at many things, but the things I'm good at, I'm really good. But like, and like, there's so many things that Selena's so much better than me at, and like we just bring that stuff together, and it makes it so much easier.
So you did your first dinner. Did you guys have a clear desired outcome with these dinners, or you guys just want to do it for your own?
At the beginning, right?
Yeah. And I mean, even now, these dinners aren't like overly strategic. Like we are expecting, X amount of business deals to happen or for us to get anything out of it. So no, but we just know the value of bringing people together. I mean, I think all the good things for our life have come from the relationships we have.
Everything. It's always about that. My favorite quote, which Bobby, video guys, heard 1,000 times today, is you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. Steve Jobs. And
Dude, I use that saying all the time. You
Oh,
follow,
Bobby,
dude. If you
he
follow
follows
me
you tomorrow, yeah.
dude, you follow me for a day, we're gonna see who uses that saying more. Because
I love it.
anytime anybody tries to not a lot of people invest in relationships because they can't peg an ROI to it.
Right.
To which I reply that exact quote. And now, having invested in relationships for the last 5 years, I can look back and connect those dots. And I'm like, it's a no-brainer to double down on relationships. So it's easy for somebody like me, but I always, use that quote that people need to take a little bit of a leap of faith because you can't connect the
Always.
dots looking forward.
Always.
I can't believe it.
And yeah, he was like, I'm so sick of hearing this. I say it so much because it's like, and I'm not even a big Steve Jobs fan or anything, but
I know.
like when I heard that, I was just like, oh my God, that is it. And what we're always talking about is like, the dots are almost always people, and it's almost always an opportunity in our job. And what we see is like to help people connect those dots quicker. And we know that by bringing people together, and if we're the catalyst for that, who are they going to also remember? And because it's like that thing of, people don't remember what you say or, what you did. They remember how you make them feel.
Yeah.
And, that's what we're always looking. And then like somebody being able to connect somebody to somebody else and like being that person, we've had people who from our dinners have raised significant amounts of money, have had charities funded, relationships have come from, like all these things. And what do they, like the only thing they have in common is Selena and I. And, that's like, regardless, anything happens financially for us or anything, we know that we're building all that goodwill. And the way that the universe works, not to go too woo, but is like, it has to come back, the same way if you're a jerk, it has to come back.
Sure. Well, it's funny. I smile, and you can catch this on camera. You can't catch this through podcasting, but I smile because the Maya Angelou quote is also a quote I use a lot. So I feel like you're reading my journals or something like that, or my diary at home, because these are all like sayings
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me of the Danny Mayer quote. I'm sure you know this one. Like, business is all about how you make people feel. It's not simple and it's not hard.
That has been my email signature for the last 19 months.
Oh, God.
This is going to be a redundant podcast because we all think the same.
Exactly.
Which
Thank you. This is great.
And
2 dinners, folks.
and scene. No, so let's talk format. What did that first dinner look like? Actually, take me back. Take me back to when you were doing your dinners. What did that look like? And when you were doing your dinners, what would an average kind of dinner look like format-wise?
Yeah, so when I first started doing my dinners, they were part of a mastermind program. So it kind of, made sense that like I was hosting it and, paying for everybody. So it might a mix of like media people and of course the entrepreneurs I was working with, who I felt like would be perfect for their media outlets. And then that actually did keep on evolving over time because we would have like my publicity clients, give little like 90-second, speeches or talks about their work to the media. And then eventually that people felt like it was too formal. And we kind of changed it into like an interview style. But with the dinner parties that Chris and I do, they're more casual, and they've definitely evolved from the first time. I mean, I remember the first time that we did it, we hadn't like planned it out in detail, and there was like 1 or 2 people that had to leave early. I remember one person, gave me like a $20 bill or something. And, if you live in New York, you know that like a drink is like $20.
You just spent more at Starbucks on those 3 waters you bought.
And Chris was such a gentleman, and he was like, because I had this $20 bill, I didn't really know what to do with it. And Chris was like, just give it back to him. Tell him that I'm just going to pay for everybody's dinner. And I was like, oh, okay. Thank you, Chris. And the next time we did it, like we split it, and that just has really worked. I think the dinner after that was probably the dinner when Pat Flynn was in town. So Chris and I will sometimes do dinner parties in people's honor when they're coming to town. And I really admire Pat Flynn. I didn't really know him well, but I was on his email list, and he said, I'm coming to New York to speak at a conference. I might have some time to meet up with some readers. And I reached out to him and I said, so exciting that you're coming to town. I was curious if you would be interested in me hosting a dinner party in your honor. dinner. I've done this for people like John Lee Dumas and Chris Ducker, who are two really good friends of his.
Sure.
And I was like, here are some people that I think would be great to invite to the party. So people that he knew, like Ramit Sethi, Derek Halpern, Kim Luna. And, he was so honored and excited. And as I started talking to Chris about it, Chris kind of offered to partner up with me and help me host it and help pay for the dinner. After we did that, it was like, it just made things easier not to have other people pay and for us just to take care of that.
Yeah, my belief and what I would always, so when I used to do dinners, they wouldn't be like a really like well thought out. I'm not a huge planner, so they wouldn't be a real well thought out thing or anything. But it'd just be people that I wanted to know. So a lot of it was based around like a conference that I was speaking at or something, and it would be other speakers or other people. And usually, what would happen is, let's go out to dinner. Then I would just make sure to get the bill and pay, regardless of what it was. And, I just, my belief is that like, it's something, so let's say it's like $100 per person or whatever it is. Yeah. That like, it's not like that's, and whatever, but it's not like that's a huge amount. Most of the people that I'm, that we're with or whatever, but it's that act, and it also just removes, like, to me, somebody's giving up hours of their time, so the least that I think that can do is to just like, it's like almost a way of compensate or just like removing that barrier of, like not coming. So I just think it's like, because there's a lot of like, we've had
and also the most important thing is getting the right people in the room. I mean, we could charge, the cost of the dinner, some of them are like $150 per person or over $200, but like, like the value of getting that money is not really that meaningful to us. What's more important is getting the right people in the room and us also having the chance to build new relationships. That's way more important than $100.
100%. Exactly. And it's just like, so the way that we were, and like what we started to say was, it was, because the dinners cost like a few $1,000, right? But we're like, that's the best money that we spend all month, in terms of just building those relationships. And again, like we just went into it thinking like, we don't expect anything from any of the people coming, like really, and like really believing that, and just like, so, and we can talk about what we did to make sure that we, believe that and like followed through with that. And that was all based around at the beginning of so we wound up getting it down to a science. Like we now have it down to a science, and like we can walk you through all the different steps. But what we do at the beginning, after people have, a drink or whatever, and everyone sits down and orders. And then as soon as they're done ordering, Selena and I get up. Selena says a few words of welcoming people, and we ask people to answer 2 questions. And we said this is the most important part of the dinner. This is the only thing you're going to have to do all night. You don't have to do anything else.
I'm hanging on every word for these 2 questions.
Okay. So the first question is, it's really 2 questions wrapped in one, but is, who are you? What do you do? That's the easy, simple question. And make that super quick. The second question is the most important part of this dinner. And that question is, what do you need help with right now? Every single person, wherever, if you were unlucky enough to sit right, to the left of Selena, you start. And each person answers those questions. And the most important one, though, is
in a group set, the full group setting?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and we go around, and if somebody, we try to give them like everyone about 45 seconds. If somebody's going too long, I'll move them, past
Which is
that.
awesome that you do that.
It doesn't matter who it is.
Sometimes we'll have like at the smaller dinner parties, we'll have up to 25 people. So if someone goes an extra minute long, or if everyone does, it's an extra half an hour. So you got to keep it on track.
I'm like, all right, we got it. So in a nice way. But everyone answers those questions. And the most amazing thing is that, and we have the people that come to our dinner, we can talk a little bit about that, are, top people in the media, influencers, entrepreneurs doing really cool things, but really, people that are busy, but also people that all day long, just as like we were talking about, people are asking them for something all day long. Sure. Multiple people asking them, pitching them, asking for money, whatever it is. So we flip it and say, what do you need help with? And the cool thing is that we make it a really safe space for people. And I think it's just because, however, because we actually care and people can pick that up. And, we're not looking for anything. We don't want anything. And everyone goes around the table and answers that question. And the coolest thing in the world is that people actually answer it, most of them, honestly. And it's not all about business. We've had people say, I'm looking for a boyfriend.
Yep.
I'm looking for a girlfriend. I've lived here in New York for 3 years. I don't have any friends. I want to have somebody to do stuff with. Somebody, and the coolest thing
It's
about
funny
that.
because one of the people that said that was like one of the most connected people.
Yes, exactly. And, best-selling author and, somebody you would think you would never expect that. Now, the cool thing about that is not only does it allow people to actually other people to try to say like during it, like I can help you with that and this and everything like that. The really cool thing is that it breaks down all this like bullshit that we see in terms of everyone's highlight reels. And you see that person, just like Selena just said, like the person who said that was like probably the last person you would ever think would say that. And because of how they're portrayed on social media and everything. So it allows all these people to just like see that's a real person. And it allows you to feel a little bit more connected to somebody because vulnerability and being able to just be real and, and so it just changes the whole right there, right at the beginning, changes the whole format of dinner. Nobody really, now if they listen to your podcast, they know that, but nobody really knows that going in. We don't say like, send out like something ahead of time and say, hey, you're going to be answering these 2 questions, have it down to, perfect. All we do is we send out the guest list and we say, show up. Dinner and drinks, everything's on us. Just have a great time. But when they get there, they answer that question. And then what happens is like other people throughout, then who you go to talk to, who you can help. But it really, I think the important thing is it breaking down those walls.
So 2 questions. One, what's the size of the dinners? So between 25 and 50 people? Is that accurate?
Well, for the smaller dinners, they're typically between 15 to 25.
20 to 25
20
now.
to 25. Well, yeah,
50.
it's grown over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the big dinners are 50.
50 plus, yeah.
50 plus. I mean, also part of it has to do with space, in New York.
Do you have a preference size-wise? Like what would be the perfect size?
I think we really like the 25 people dinners. The 20 to 25 are really like what I don't know. We've never really talked about it.
Yeah, we haven't really. But
I think it's more
it.
where we've evolved and just been like, wow, this is like the, and this year we're trying, or like in a couple of weeks, we're trying slightly different format. And, so I think that's like, even though I just said we have it down to a science, like, that's not true because we're going to switch it up. And, but I think that's what it is for everything. Like, just because you were talking about with like mastermind talks, like you're constantly looking, like, how can you improve it? Like,
absolutely,
and, in these little, it's like all these 1% things, like that's what we're always concerned with. It's not like ever the big things. It's always like, just like these little tweaks and, little things like, all right, send out the email and the pictures or, all these different things. So
So 20 to 25 people seems to be like a little bit of a sweet spot.
Yeah.
For the both of you. What did the table setup look like?
So
generally.
Oh yeah, it's just like it's a long table.
Everybody at one table.
Yeah, everyone at one table. But for our bigger dinner parties, like 50 people, we'll have like tables of 8, 8 or 10, and then we do the the whole exercise about how I can help you just with your table of 10.
Got it.
Just because if all 50 people were talking, it would be like an hour plus.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. No, this is great. This is very different. This is awesome. The one definitely similarity that we share is paying for the dinners.
Yeah.
Because I know some people. I don't know if Dan pays, I think, sometimes, but he also charges for them sometimes too. And I know Ramit Sethi and Michael Fishman always paid for the dinner.
Yeah.
So there's kind of different philosophies there, but similar to what you guys said from an ROI perspective, like it is a drop in the bucket. Like
Right.
I've spent like this last month, I dabbled with Facebook ads. We spent like $7,500, and I was looking at the people who came in through the funnel and engaged with it. I'm like, these are not my people at all. And I'm like, for $7,500, I could have hosted 100 entrepreneurs at a dinner. And like the ROI from that is bananas.
Right.
Exactly.
Even though you don't do it for the ROI reasons, just naturally, if you put
Yeah.
100 great entrepreneurs together in the room and you become top of mind, it's a whole like top of mind, tip of tongue thing. Like it just, it's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think
It's a
another
no-brainer.
thing for Chris and I is like we really value developing relationships with the media because when we meet someone who's amazing, like we just love being the person that can help blow them up and make sure the rest of the world knows about them.
Yeah.
And with the media, like people are asking them for things all day long. Like write about me, do this. They're on
Sure.
deadline. They're stressed, and also a lot of them, they're not making as much money as some of our entrepreneur friends, so
Sure.
they're not going to pay $100 or $300 to come to a dinner. And so we just want to develop those relationships. And honestly, like those relationships are pretty hard to develop because they've got hundreds of people emailing them every day. Their default is just kind of like ignore the email. And we want to be that person who has a real friendship and relationship with them. And when we do, want to run an idea by, which we think could be a win-win, we can just send them a text, we can pick up the phone, we can send them an email and hear back in a couple of minutes versus being, someone else who basically can't get a response.
Sure. No, I mean, it's the one thing I know you want to say something. I just want to make mention, like the one thing you made mention of, which I think is a really valid point. When you do pay for the dinner, it goes both ways. Like on one side, it removes that as being an objection, so it just makes it much more of a no-brainer. At the same time, though, when they don't pay, oftentimes they're like, okay, well, what's he up to? You know what I mean? Like, what does he want from me type thing? So you have to be able to kind of navigate that accordingly.
We've had that.
I had one person I remember.
Yeah,
like,
this
wonder.
one woman who's very high up in the media and like very influential. And so what we do, like the way that we get people to come is it's always through referral. So when we go around and everything and when it gets back to me and it's like, what do you need help with? And I'm like, the only thing you can help me with is refer your friends to us.
Sure.
Yeah. If you have a good time here tonight, we want to meet people like you that you think would be great. So friends in the media, especially.
Yeah, and we started getting specific because, sometimes people will be like, oh, I've got these 7 people that should come to the dinner.
Yeah.
But we kind of have a vision of the kinds of people that we're looking to have there. So really influential, inspiring entrepreneurs, and also people in the media that could potentially cover some of the entrepreneurs at the dinner.
But so this one woman who gets lots of things, I guess, thrown at her and everything, and she's in like the fashion niche. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And she was there, and the person who had referred her and everything was saying like she's a little apprehensive, and but she's coming. And we went back and forth a little bit. She's like, I don't even know if I can give you her email. She's so private about it and all this. It's like, all right, it's okay. And so she came and she had an amazing time, amazing, much better than I thought she was gonna, based on our previous interactions. And Selena and I were talking to her, and she was like, I was very apprehensive. I didn't know what you guys were like up to, or like and there was nothing. There's
It's
no
so funny.
There's no tripwire.
And then like the next day or the next weekend she was I guess at her book club with like all of these magazine editors, and she's like, you guys have got to go to Selena and Chris's parties. They're the most amazing. And she sent like these people from like all of these like top like women's and business magazines to our parties.
She happened to go to this one school that has all like I feel like 1 out of every 3
Syracuse.
people. Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it. There's no way. Anyway, she referred like all these amazing people to us, and we're still in touch with her, and she's amazing. But there's that thing, and especially we're in New York City, and like these people are getting invited to everything, and which
there's
also
a lot of
goes back.
Yeah, especially for the media, because they're always being invited to events where there's
Exactly.
free events.
Yeah. So we want to make it that thing where people just leave feeling like, wow. Like one of the big things we hear is like, I go to a lot of networking events, and this was so much better. We're like, this is not a networking event. Like, this is like, you're here to make connections. You're here to make real friends. Like, you're here to get help, and like just like changing that whole thing.
So the initial invites were basically both of you
merging your Rolodexes and inviting a slew of people. Now it's much more through a referral / nomination process.
I don't think we invite anyone ourselves at this point. Like we have, so we started to systematize it a lot. Like Selena, like had everything is like run in like a Google spreadsheet, and we'll map out what are the dates going to be, and then we'll start just like matching people up, like that would, all right, this person be good here, or that's gonna like timing's gonna work or whatever. But it's all like referrals, and they constantly are coming in, from people, and we've also. Selena's better at this, like saying like, I don't think that person's, a great fit. We're really more focused. Like if we just know that they're not going to be that right fit, but being okay with saying that as well, because it's, you know how it is. Like you have way more people applying to mastermind talks than can come, because you want to make sure that the people in the room, everyone feels like, wow, I'm meant to be here. That person's meant to be here.
You also got to protect people in your community from liabilities. Right?
100%.
Especially if you are inviting people of the caliber that you guys are inviting in a room.
Yeah.
Last thing you want to do is put them in a scenario where, they could be exposed to somebody who, I see Chris smiling. I think we've all had scenarios like that.
I think we had one person who was like, and he came like.
Oh, I remember.
He came from like a really like, like he has a big job at a major publication, and he was just not the right fit, So
well,
like,
the thing is, you never know how these people are going to react until those settings. Like I've even had people at mastermind talks over there for a couple of years, and then you a couple of like one or two drinks, and then you start to see like we've never had like alcohol abuse in our environments, but people start to loosen up. They start to be a little more themselves, and it could be.
I wish they went back to being who they pretend to be.
But that's also a good reason to also co-host these dinner parties, because during the dinner party something could happen where maybe someone's acting a little crazy or gets sick or whatever it is, right? And then
you can just blame it on Chris and say Chris wants you to go.
One of us can take care of it, and then the other can kind of take care of the group. And also for some of our bigger dinner parties, we make sure to invite certain friends of ours who are just like really good at developing relationships and making people feel amazing. So
Susie Moore.
So Susie Moore, she comes a lot. She writes for a lot of publications. Todd Herman.
I don't know if he makes anyone feel amazing.
Oh, he's good. Yeah. And Ryan Lee.
Ryan, Jonathan.
Just because, when there's 50 people, it's harder to really, touch that many people.
Yeah.
So we have other people kind of almost like as ambassadors.
See, I'm very blessed to have Saul Orwell in my backyard because I'm doing a dinner next week. And we do assigned seatings. Like we have the same kind of desired outcomes. Like we're doing it because we care about people, and it's almost like one of the ways I look at dinners is building trust at scale. Like I know I want nothing from you, but I want to build trust with you. And it's a great way to do that. But to what you said, like any seating arrangement I do, I'm like, I could plug Saul Orwell here. Like I could plug Saul pretty much in any scenario, whether it be with foodies, whether it be people in the fitness space, whether it be people in media.
Wow, he's so versatile.
He is incredible. I'm like, oh God, I need more
domainers.
Exactly.
So Saul came to New York and we did a dinner with him, and he's actually coming. We're doing another one with him at the end of the month.
End of the month,
yeah, and and it's so good to have.
I don't know if I pointed this out, but I absolutely love that you knew of Pat Flynn. Mm-hmm. You reached out to him relatively cold. I mean, you had.
I do that a lot.
You had the social proof of like you've done dinners for others.
Yeah.
But you did a dinner like in his honor. I'm like, you can't turn that down. You know what I mean? Like that is
it's such a compliment, right?
No, yeah,
especially
exactly.
with all those people coming.
And then you think when the dinner is done, like how much gratitude and reciprocity there is for somebody like you. Like you did all that heavy lifting. You put them on a pedestal. Like we all have a deep desire to feel, seen and significant and all that kind of stuff. Like that is actually an incredible gesture. So
thank you.
I don't know if I pointed it out earlier, but that was in the back of my mind to
I love doing that. And I also feel like when, people are coming to town, like they may only be in New York for like 1 or 2 days, they're going to want to meet multiple people.
Sure.
In a way, like it's a little bit, it could be selfish if it's like, oh, hey, can you meet for coffee or dinner for me? Even if you can add value, like people are just stretched on time. So how can you make it the ultimate win-win? And that's like bringing a lot of people together and creating more value for the guest of honor, but also for everyone in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, that's awesome. So we talked about dinner size. We talked about paying.
Oh, and I wanted to just point one thing out. When we do the 50-person dinners, we do assigned seating as well.
Do you?
And we like really labor over it in a big way. Yeah. And another important thing, one of the most important things I think is we have every single dinner professional photographer.
So I was going to touch on that.
Good.
So both of you are.
This is huge.
Both of you are handing over notes like this is elementary school, which is great. Because Selena made mention about talking about the photos because your photos are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of dinners and I use my iPhone.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, the FOMO I feel on social media every time because also
that's all we do it for.
you use like beautiful restaurants. I don't know if it's the same restaurant I see every time. Do you use
Most of the time, yeah, we like to use the same
beautiful space. But
the
your
new one's even going to be nicer. The new restaurant.
Yeah.
But your photographer is legit.
Yeah, we've got a good one. We've got
Yeah.
two that we alternate between.
That's who Saul wound up using for the cookie off. Yeah.
So the photographer, what did you have the photographer since the beginning?
No, well, the very first dinner that we did in September, I remember we didn't have a photographer. We used like an iPhone, and I feel like I was kind of like, in a shadow in the photo. Like sometimes you can't even really see people that well. And yeah, we knew that we wanted to upgrade that.
Yeah, and then we were just like, this is like a no-brainer. Like I think until we started. Maybe not until like this year. And
yeah,
then, like,
and it was
started,
really like your idea, and
because I had a couple different.
I remember
workshops.
you were doing the workshop, and you had her. Yeah, this person, Stacy, like amazing photographer.
Stacy Nattle, yeah.
Yeah, and she was just so good at like capturing the energy in the room, and you felt like you were there.
Yeah.
And we were like, we should be doing
Without
that for our
being
dinners.
overbearing, and then and
it's those candid moments that if like a good photographer can capture when people are like in conversation with a smile or those kind of things, like one of those photos just encapsulates the entire experience beautifully.
So again, like that's another thing where we look at and we're like, all right, this is such a worthwhile expense. Like, because then you get so much more out of it than just like that, the dinner. So then like the dinner, so here's how we do it. So we have all, the invites, we go back and forth, everything like that with all the different people. Let's say the week before, we'll send out just an email, like just reminder, blah, blah, blah. And, everyone's BCC'd and everything. And then like the day before, we send out an email with details once again and the full guest list with everyone's short title, making them sound as great as possible when we rewrite the titles, and a link to like their LinkedIn or their website.
So you send
or
that
whatever.
out in advance?
Yeah.
To all the wow.
Just so people can know, and if they want, they can do some research or just get to know people, and then and again, just saying dinner and drinks are on us. Like, don't worry, just come, have fun. And then we do the dinner. We have the photographer there, and we do everything that we just talked about. Right before we actually eat, we do a group photo. Before the table's a mess, before people are a mess, anything like that, we do the group photo. Then we just let's say it usually goes from like 7 to 10 or something like that, and then the photographer, so Selena had made said something before. We like people can turn things around quickly, so the photographers we work for, whether it's Stacy or Victor. Yeah. What's Victor's last name?
Chung.
Victor Chung,
awesome.
Another amazing photographer we have here. And, they will get us the photos back, typically that night, or at least by the time I wake up in the morning. And then, either one of us gets them all out on Facebook, and then we send out a email thanking everyone and BCCing everyone again, and then a link. And I got this idea from Michael Roderick of a link to a Google Doc. And the Google Doc just simply, so instead of us being the ones sharing people's emails and being those people, which we don't want to do, because if somebody doesn't want that email shared or, doesn't want their contact, so it links to a Google Doc where people can put in their contact information if they want. So they can put in all their contact information and again, reiterate what do they need help with. And then also they can add can they help people with. And, and then we also link to the Facebook post, tag all the people so that they're going to see that, they're going to go and check it out and everything like that.
Actually, so I'm meeting with Michael tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
I think actually.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of the Google.
Yeah,
Google
it's a great
Doc.
idea.
That's Yeah, that's interesting. And the Rolodex in advance, it's interesting as well. You guys have always done the attendee Rolodex?
Yeah,
Always.
always.
Yeah, love that.
Awesome.
Well, here's the other thing. So you mentioned social proof before. So the people that we're bringing, they're impressive people. They're cool people. So if somebody's like, we're not going to kid ourselves and just think that it's 100%, with every person. We still have people who will cancel or, last minute. But it's like one of those things where, let's say, because again, most of the people don't know us. They've been referred to us.
Right.
Somebody said they had a great time. Okay, great. So, but what happens, seeing it the night before, the day before, and being like, oh, wow, like, all right, I actually really want to meet that person. Or, oh, the senior vice president from MSNBC is going to be there. I want to work at MSNBC, so I'm going to make sure I'm there. So it's that, that whole thing, just like getting somebody like, all right, I'm going to definitely be there now.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's, we debate a lot about this at Mastermind Talks because we don't release the Rolodex of people in advance, and I think there's pros and cons to either.
But you have a much better reputation with it, and many more people know you've done a great job, Mark. All these things like this is, especially when we're just starting out with this. Again, like I never think anyone knows who I am or cares about me.
Sure.
And I try to just remember that because, like, as soon as I start thinking a different way, like, I'll have somebody say, like, oh, that person's so famous. And it's like some online entrepreneur or something.
Sure.
Nobody knows him. Go down on, Fifth Avenue right now. Sure. Ask 10 people, see what happens, Then mention Oprah and see what happens. That's famous, so.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's something I still kind of debate. One of the, I guess, the defaults, because I think it's important to showcase, the people that you're going to have at the dinner, because it also helps build anticipation, right? And anticipation and studies have shown, like, if you plan a family trip 3 months from now, that anticipation, you get sometimes derive more happiness from that anticipation and excitement than the actual vacation itself, right?
Just always about it with a family trip, yeah.
So yeah,
Disney World.
so that's kind of like the same philosophy. It's like being able to announce people in advance. It helps build anticipation. The way we've angled it, I guess my hesitation with it, and totally I want to be challenged on it, is like, especially, and I've taken this from the concept of Mastermind Talks, is that, like, whenever I get a Rolodex for an event in advance, I obviously look everybody up and I start prejudging people based on their social media profiles, right? So I know some people with like 8-figure businesses that have 3 contacts on LinkedIn, and I'm like, this guy's probably not worth my time. And what I'll notice in certain settings, in networking settings, is that people will come in with a hit list of people they want to talk to, and they may be in conversation with you, but looking over your shoulder, and you can see that they're like, their gears are spinning, like, that's actually somebody I really want to talk to, and they may cut your conversation short. So because of that, we've kept Mastermind Talks blind. But what I do leverage for, like, the dinners is we have intake forms that we get people to fill out in advance, and I usually have a pretty good understanding of everybody there and what they're known for and their brags and all those kind of things. So what we'll do is we'll, in advance, similar to what you guys do, we'll say, at this dinner, we have someone who is a former Olympic athlete. We have someone who is a 3-time New York Times bestselling author. So we keep it blind in that regard, and also keeps people.
You did a Facebook post with that, and Todd was like, "Oh, I didn't know you were giving all my stats
it was
or something."
I put like 10 kind of brags, and
and he's like, "Oh, why are you describing me?"
Don't put me on blast publicly. So yeah, no, it's interesting because I'm always similar to you guys, is always evolving these dinners, always looking to see what other people are doing. And this is why I'm so excited to sit down with both of you, because there's some similarities there. There's some things that you guys do differently, and there's some things I can definitely pull from that.
Our goal is, like, for everything, and this, I think, why we connected so much right from the beginning, is like to go way beyond like business or anything transactional, and just develop a relationship, and not with everyone, because we don't like everyone, and like, it's just how it is. It's impossible. But like the people where we're like, wow, this is an amazing person, and guess what? Then they want to help us. They want to help people that we send to them, and we want to help them. We'll help some of them get like coaching, jobs, or like they want to start consulting, or We've had lots of people, especially recently, emailing us about like wanting to switch to a different publication, or they've gone freelance, they need clients, or they want to start writing, and and we help those people, and we'll help them. So,
no, that's awesome. So what's What's the evolution for you at this point in time? Now looking into kind of 2018, are the dinners changing? Is there going to be a different structure to them? Is there a different desired kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like a couple of things we're exploring. One is, we know that we provide a lot of value to the venues because, people are always curious, like, where are you guys hosting your dinner parties? And
I'm curious.
Yeah. and we spend so much money with these venues. And so, yeah, we're like looking for new partners who are interested in collaborating with us and giving us preferred pricing. And, in exchange, we're going to be promoting the venue on social media. I mean, people all the time are asking, Chris and I, like, where's a great place to host, a fundraiser, a birthday party, or whatever. And so, we can send them like a ton of business, but then in turn, we want to, be treated, like VIPs and get like preferred pricing for all the dinners.
Yeah, or sponsor. So like we're again like thinking of like, all right, what can we do? How can we do more while doing less? Like that's my goal in life.
Yeah.
Meaning like in for anything. So like how can we like bring on somebody where and we don't even know because we kind of like threw this out already like
Yeah.
and we've gone back to like thinking like but we did find a place recently where we love it's like beautiful restaurant and it's just like brand new, unbelievable reviews. Like it's like one of the hottest places right now. And Selena has known the woman for like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And we met with her and she thinks the same way that we do. And, she sees. And so we're like, all right, you know what? We'll just work with you. And, we'll figure something out and, we'll see. Does that work? But I think that overall, I don't think I think it's like these continued like little 1% tweaks, just like how do we like change something a little bit? How do we just like, make it like, again, like it goes back to like sending out like an email like at a specific time or like, it sounds so stupid, but like even saying it, but it's like, it is like, how do we just make sure that people connect more? And also what we took like the last month off because what we realized is like, we'd met so many people. So we sent out thank yous to everyone right around the new year.
Yeah.
It was like 100. It was like
150 plus.
Yeah, 100.
People.
Like I think it was like 167 people overall, or something
Yeah,
like that.
sounds right.
That we had at our dinners like over the last year. Different people,
Sure.
some multiple times, and and what we realized is like we also didn't fully able to connect because we're two people like with all those people. So like how do we then go back to some of those people? Like, does that mean like going and meeting with them, doing different things like that? So it's not always again like doing more, like you do with like Mastermind, you do it once a year and then but it's like then what do we do like in between? And
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I'll add is like, because we're looking for partners and sponsors, and there's someone that is interested in sponsoring one of our next dinners who is an author. And I think that like people who have books coming out soon would be the perfect people to partner with us around our dinners because we can bring so many, influencers there that have massive email lists, like media from, Business Insider, Forbes, Oprah,
Literally,
Glamour, New York Times, all these places like there. And then we can even like pass out like excerpts of the book or, so I mean, that's something that, it's, in New York, like, a lot of like some of the top PR firms, they start at $10,000 a month. That's like the minimum for like the junior level assistant. Whereas, with us, if someone were to partner with us on a dinner party, like we have like guarantees, like we know that we're going to get all these people in the room who can learn about kind of your book and, your project. So it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting angle because I know you were talking about, you made a post about the partnerships.
Yeah.
See, potentially dabbling with the idea of partnerships. And there's been kind of conversations I've had with people. I have a friend of mine. Actually, did I tell you about Dave from Vorey?
You mentioned him. Yeah.
I gotta connect you. He has a really...
So Saul connected me.
Oh, did he really?
Then, and I wrote back and then
we're waiting to hear back, maybe.
Something. Or he wrote immediately, and then I responded, and then I just never heard from him again.
Okay.
So, Dave, if you're listening, you owe me an email.
I can reach out. I know. I've known him for a while. But so they build a platform that basically enables people to host dinners around different themes, and they have sponsors that are ready to like throw money at these dinners and cover the cost. So it's
definitely we would like to talk, and because it's also like the same way, we created like a mastermind together, and like around like the idea of like connecting people, and then also the dinner. So like again, like what we were talking about is that there's opportunities that constantly come.
Sure.
And then like you never know like what's that right one.
Yeah.
We started the dinners with zero, like no business plan, no business sense, nothing, like just like, all right, let's do this, see what happens. And, so it's like that same thing. So like, all right, is there something? And for us, it's so important to make sure it's like always like an amazing fit with something, because we refer and like we get really enthusiastic about people, but we're so careful about who we do that with.
Sure.
So
The one thing I really want to highlight, because I think you and I are on the same page in regards to that, is I realized for a while I was doing a lot of dinners and was having all these people, but I never had the space or the bandwidth to go deeper with those said individuals.
yeah.
And to me, one of the benefits of these dinners, it's almost like gives you the opportunity to have micro interactions with people. So like somebody reaches out to you and and wants to do coffee. Instead of doing coffee with 8 people for an hour each, you just all have them at a dinner, and you'll be able. And I actually stole that from Neil Strauss, because from what I remember, he does a dinner in LA once a week, once every 2 weeks, where people who reach out to him. Instead of, again, doing these 1 hour dinner dates and all that kind of stuff, he'll just have them all on a Friday night. And then at that dinner, the ones that he really hits off with, he'll be like, hey, come back to my place. We'll chat some more type thing. But it gives you an opportunity to have these. You can really get a good gauge of somebody in a first few seconds of an interaction. And that's kind of the for me, it's like a great environment for that, to like assess, like, do I want to go deeper in this relationship or not? And if not, I paid for their dinner. It was great to have them out. I don't burn that bridge or anything like that, but it gives me an opportunity to really have a good understanding of who I want to go deeper with.
See, you paid the dinner to save the time of it's like that from Goodfellas or Bronx Tale.
Because even in a group of like 20 people, you can easily kind of micro connect with everybody, or see how they navigate the room and all those kind of things.
How they talk to people.
And have a really good understanding.
That's a really good point. Yeah. I like that a lot. I just want to say one thing that I think is really important. Like, if you want it to be a breakfast, if you want it to be 4 people,
100%.
If you want it to be a lunch, happy hour, like, do what's right for you. Like, again, we're in the middle of New York City. So when it's our business, connection and this side. So, just because like what we're saying, like if you're in a small town, don't think like, oh, I'm not in New York City, so I can't do that, or I don't have a partner, or, like I do every time that somebody asks me, I'm always suggesting to partner up with somebody, because it's going to help automatically to expand your network.
Yeah.
Automatically, because, and just say you invite, let's say you're going to have 8 people, plus you 2, it's 10. You invite 4, I'll invite 4.
Yep.
Here's the type of person, and this is like, just start there, and it can be so simple. And you figure this stuff out as you go along.
See, I gotta relinquish control, because I am a control freak, and that's the only problem, is that like partnering with somebody on a dinner, just I don't have control over like who's there and all that kind of stuff. And to me, being the control freak that I am, can be problematic. But I totally see, like, I see the magic that you guys have and how you can divide and conquer and do. I mean, you're doing a lot of these dinners. It's like a pretty frequent cadence, and they're sizable dinners and all that kind of stuff. So I definitely see the value in it. I may just got to maybe my goal for 2018 is to loosen up a little bit.
Yeah, let go.
But no, this has been awesome. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I have a lot of notes here, things that I'm going to apply. The mastermind. So the mastermind stemmed from the dinner. Why is it in New York? It feels like the city's always on fire or something like that. It's always in chaos. There's always some kind of.
There's 6 million people in a 4-block radius. There's a lot of things can go wrong.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
So you ended up spinning off a mastermind because of our, or like was I guess was the dinner. I guess what I'm trying to point to is like now looking back again, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can connect them back, because you've been doing these dinners for how long now together?
About a year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half at this point.
So, what is there an ROI that you can point to that has stemmed from it? Whether it be a door that has been opened because of an introduction, or
definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think the ROI is actually massive. Indirect and indirect ROI. Probably indirect ROI, in which I think is, oftentimes, especially in our Facebook ad, everything measured to the exact cent world, that everyone's always looking for that. Always that direct ROI.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's also really helped us kind of build our reputation.
That's what I mean.
Because,
indirect.
for example, there are people who travel across the country and they go to 7 different conferences and, over the course of a year. But I feel like, with these dinners that we do and everyone is tagged, everyone is seeing, in their Facebook feeds, oh, there's Selena and Chris. There's Selena and Chris. Oh, they know this person. They know that person. I think it just opens up doors for us. It's really easy for us to get in touch with people. And there are even people in the media who we've never met before, but they know who we are because
100%.
they've seen photos, on social media, and they've been hoping to get invited to the dinner parties. And it allows us to serve our clients and friends and colleagues in a bigger way. And that's just
100%.
so rewarding. And I think, both Chris and I, the most rewarding thing for us is to be able to open up those big doors for people and to connect the dots and make things happen. Because in your mind, you can connect the dots, but you also need that relationship, to facilitate, those connections. And so it just makes everything easier and faster.
Perfectly said.
I want to end it there, but I do.
I know.
Another
Drop
question.
the mic.
I do want to say, it's a headset, so don't drop that. I know. It'll be expensive.
Throw it
But
on the floor.
one interesting thing to note as well is the importance of kind of being known locally. Because the one thing is I've gone to a lot of events and you build this great kind of network all over the place. But I realized about 2 years ago, I didn't have a great kind of peer group kind of locally or great connections locally. And I saw the value of being kind of well known locally. And when people came to the city, me being the first person top of mind, right? So when I come to New York, I probably know, I don't know, hundreds of people in New York. But you guys were the first ones that came top of mind. If you come to Toronto, hopefully you think of me, but you also probably
100%.
think of Saul and his cookies and those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the nice thing too of doing the dinners you do and just going real deep.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. I think it's also, and I'm glad that you said about the peer group or building those relationships locally and, having that, because actually the dad mastermind group that I'm in stemmed from the Pat Flynn dinner. So I'm in a small 4-person mastermind, me, Jonathan Fields, Todd Herman, and Ryan Lee. That came from and we meet every 45 days and, it's been amazing and we're all dads and, we all do something similar. But that, the idea, they had kind of the idea, they didn't just have they'd never started, they didn't have that 4th person. And then I met Todd and Ryan at the dinner that we did with Pat Flynn, and we didn't talk about it. We joked around the entire time and laughed. And, and I think that's a really important thing also just to note is we're rarely talking about not everyone's sitting there and be okay, what story are you working on? Or, what business, how much money, blah, blah. It's getting to, I think the most important stuff comes from real, the real conversation, really understanding and learning or joking around and seeing, is it somebody you want to spend time with? And, just that, you were talking about. So, and having those groups and just there's people that we know, all right, if we do something, they'll be there. So those people, a Susie or, then we have certain, Andrea from Entrepreneur, different people where we just know, all right, these are we have this crew or then a lot of the people that were at the Pat dinner, are part of the online New York City, Remy and Derek and, and it's so it's cool. And you build that, sense of community and you might only see those people a few times a year, but it's that there's something there. There's that connection. I think that's very important.
Well, Selena, any wisdom bombs that you want to drop before we can?
I think the other thing is just because, Chris and I are just so passionate about serving people, it removes any fear from reaching out to people, because people will say to me sometimes where do you get the courage to reach out to that magazine editor, that huge entrepreneur? But I think Chris and I know that if we're going to become part of someone's life, all we're going to do is add value and make their lives better. It isn't about us or proving ourselves. So that's why I've never been afraid. And I'm someone who is self-proclaimed introvert, naturally shy, but even right when I was starting my business, I would host these smaller champagne brunches and I would invite invite people in the media who I had never met before. And they would say yes, because I positioned the party or the brunch in a way that was really, fun and exciting. And so there may be people listening to this who think like, well, I don't live in New York City. I don't have the kinds of connections that Chris and Selena have. But, we had to build these connections over time. Like everybody starts at zero. So I just want other people to know that they can do it too.
Yeah, and I think one important thing to kind of point out there, what I've discovered is that because I started, so I live just outside of Toronto in a city called Waterloo, where up until recently I didn't have a network at all. So I'm like, well, the best way to start building a peer group and a network is by doing a dinner. And it was, to me, like I've built a name.
Yeah.
Like when I first did my dinners in 2012, I was lucky if I got like a 5% response rate because nobody knew who I was. I had no credibility, all that kind of stuff. Now I can do a dinner. I came to New York like a year ago and did a dinner, and I invited 33 people, and 32 kind of showed up. Like it's completely different. So when people talk to me about dinners now, I'm like, I'm so disconnected from the early days of how hard it was. So I'm like, I'm going to do one locally, and I don't know anybody locally, so I'm going to start from scratch. And reached out to a lot of people cold. The truth be told, it was a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah.
But the one thing I realized is that once you hit it out of the park with that first dinner, you have the photos, you have the social proof of the people who were there. Amazing people know other amazing people, so they refer other people.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time I did my first dinner, I had probably sent out 60 invitations. I got 20 yeses. The 20 that came to the dinner, I had a great time with them. I had a professional photographer. So afterwards, the 40 people who said they couldn't, I followed up and said, hey, here's some photos of the dinner. We'd love to have you at the next one.
Yeah.
Plus the 20 that did come, I said, hey, would you know somebody that to what you said, you're delivering so much value to them. They're over the moon.
Yeah.
They're always going to ask, like, how can I be of service to you? And I always say, like, who's a great person as well. And the next thing you know, you went from having 20 people at that dinner to having now a nomination list of 80 people. And then the ball just gets rolling.
I mean, the other thing that I'll add to that is that, a lot of times when we post our dinner parties, like Chris and I will have people PMing me or, PMing us or commenting like, oh, I want an invite, or just kind of aggressively follow up. Like, how do I get on the invite list? And it's one of those things where you can't pay to be in the dinner. You almost have to like earn your spot by being someone who is, admired in your community. And so I think it's like important that all of us do things to build our brands, build relationships, build our reputations, because, these things are like priceless. You can't pay for it. I mean, the other thing I'll add is like there's this quote that I loved. One of my interns told me this years ago, but the moment you put someone on a pedestal is the moment that they start looking down on you. And so what I've discovered is the way to kind of even the playing field is being that person who adds value and becomes that giver. And so other people can do this by hosting their own dinner parties, becoming a center of influence in their community, being that connector, helping people, building their brands, getting publicity for themselves, helping their friends get publicity, making connections and all those things. Sometimes people are like, oh, why aren't I a part of that? But a part of it is like, well, rather than complaining, like become your best self so that more people are gravitated to you and they naturally think of you for these kinds of events.
Love that.
No, absolutely. It's, no, I love them. I love the dinners. I love that you guys are doing theirs. I picked up a few things from this, so I really appreciate it. I don't want to. Part of me was like, I have another question. I'm going to stop it there because it's been absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Selena.
Thank you, Jason.
I really appreciate it. Love you all. That is it, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Jason. Yeah,
Thank you.
It's so
awesome.
good. And Selena and I are so passionate about this stuff, and and you've done it so well, and so it's so much fun to talk today.
Maybe one of these days I will earn a spot at one of your dinners.
You have an open invitation.
Yeah.
No, you got to play hard to get. You're like, oh, no, you got to be like, yeah, maybe. We'll submit an application. We'll talk.
Let's edit that out. Maybe we'll let you.
All right, everyone. Thank you.
So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening. As a quick reminder, in this episode, we highlighted some of the concepts shared in my book, Mastermind Dinners, Building Lifelong Relationships by Connecting Experts, Influencers, and Linchpins. This book has done very well over the years and has an average rating of 4.7 stars out of 5 on Amazon. If you're a member of the Community Made group, you can get access to a free PDF version in the resource section. If you're not a member, lucky for you. To join, it is free. Simply visit communitymade.com to get access. And again, as mentioned in this episode, we decided to take some of the concepts of this season on how to grow, nurture, and amplify your business relationships and teach them in a small, intimate workshop environment. And oddly enough, Chris is actually coming to our first workshop. We have an amazing group of people that have signed up for it. We have people flying in from Spain, New York, Australia, all over the place. So we decided to announce a second date because our first one sold out so quickly. So for dates and availability on that, visit superconnectorworkshop.com. That's superconnectorworkshop.com. If you enjoyed this episode, show some love to Selena and Chris by taking a screenshot of your podcast app and pinging them on Instagram at Selena Sue. That's SELENASOO, and Chris Winfield. Chris is CHRIS, that's a given. Winfield is WINFIELD. Both of them can be found on Instagram. For more details on the both of them, visit selenasue.com or chriswinfield.com. Before I go, I got to give a shout out to Mary Dooley for leaving the following review on iTunes. She said, "The Scaling is Stupid episode made me take pause and reflect. This theory applies in so many areas of life. Love the podcast." No, Mary, I love you. Thank you so much for leaving that review. For the rest of you out there, if you enjoyed this episode or like what we're doing here at Community Made, I would be forever grateful if you would share this podcast with a friend. Leave an honest review on iTunes or Facebook, just like Mary did. That stuff goes a long way. Join me for the next episode where I sit down with Alexis Dean and Giovanni Marsico, where we share a candid conversation on building a tribe through hosting small, intimate retreats to large-scale events. It is a masterclass. I can't wait to share it with you. I'll see you on the next episode. Enjoy your week.